So here is the problem that we went over on Friday from chapter 4, section 4, problem 21. It is a classic tide problem. You have a high tide, you have a low tide. You need to come up with an equation so that you know what the water depth is going to be at any given time. So the way that I would normally start a tide problem is I would draw a diagram and I would plot the points that we have. So we have high tide at 4:25, and then we have low tide at 10:55, and we would label those 12.95 and 2.02. And then I'm just going to connect them with something that kind of looks like part of a sine wave, and we already know my graphing, my drawing is not that accurate. So we need to come up with amplitude, period, phase shift, vertical shift, write the equation, and then find out what the depth of the water is at 8:45 p.m. It's 8:45, right?
Yeah.
Okay, everybody's afraid to talk now. Don't be afraid to talk.
I said yes.
Okay, so when we are, that would be one person in the class that's spoken. Okay, so when you work in time, you have to turn the time into decimal, correct?
Yes.
If you're going to work with it. So what is 425 in decimal?
4
and 25 over 60.
In decimal? 4 point what?
5.
4.25.
4 point what?
25.
What's 5 over 12?
4.425?
4.465.
4.465. And then 1055 turns into 10 point what?
112.
Sorry, no, that was wrong. Sorry, it's 4.417.
4.417. So if you do not have a calculator out right now, you need to have a calculator out.
Yeah, can I borrow a calculator?
No.
Okay.
Ooh, get that down.
Okay, Adam, what's this number? In decimal. You have it written on your sheet of paper.
4.465.
4.417.
416.
4 point what?
416. 0.46.
417.
Well,
It's 425. It's 4 point.
417.
4.416.
And then 1055 is 10 point.
167.
10.167.
If you round it, yeah.
1055.
That's what we
Yeah,
got.
would be
0.916.
Well, that's why we got it wrong.
10.916.
10.917.
7, you round it up.
Okay.
It doesn't matter.
Okay, so we have those times.
If you're rounding it, then the 6 on the other one is a 7 too.
Okay.
Stephen, gosh dang it.
So we have those times. How do you calculate amplitude?
That would be
The range divided by 2.
The low plus the high divided by 2.
2, yeah.
It would be
The low plus the high divided by 2 would be the average, which would be the midline. How do you calculate amplitude?
The high minus the low divided by 2.
minus high minus midline.
High minus the low divided by 2 is how you calculate the amplitude. What is the amplitude?
The amplitude
5.465.
And then how would you calculate the period?
Period is 2 pi over b.
Okay, we're looking at this problem.
Yes.
You have high tide at 425 and low tide at 1055. How far apart are they?
6.
6.5, right?
Yeah. 6 point. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
between high tide and low tide is 6.5 hours. So how far do you have to go to the next high tide, which would be the end of the
Oh,
period?
it's 2 pi, so it's just you take that times 2.
6.5 times 2.
Which is
13.
13 hours. Okay, so the period is 13 hours. The phase shift, do you want to write a sine wave or a cosine wave?
Cosine.
You want to write a cosine wave, and what would the phase shift be?
How to set it up is just 4.417 is equal to negative COT
No, what is the phase shift? The phase shift is a number.
4.417.
It's a number of hours.
It's
4.417.
4.417. So that is just how far you
It's
have
different
gone
from
from
the
midnight.
origin to
Now,
the
in the
origin
problem
somewhere.
says X is the number of hours since midnight, right?
Mhm.
So you are 4.417 hours after midnight. Now the vertical shift, that's where you get the high tide plus the low tide divided by 2 because that's your midline. 12.95 minus 2.02 divided by 2, I'm sorry, that's plus. And what is your vertical shift?
7.485.
Okay, so this is 7.485. Okay, now we have the amplitude, the period, the phase shift, and the vertical shift, so we can write the equation. We don't have all the information yet, but we can say the depth of the water at any given time, rather than f of x, I'm doing d of t. It's the same thing, just different letters. D of t, depth at any given time, is kind of descriptive. So the first thing I would do is I would put the vertical shift, 7.485, plus the amplitude, 5.465, times cosine of, and we'll fill that in a second. What is, if we know the period, how do we find b?
That 13 equals 2 pi over b.
13 equals 2 pi over b, or b equals 2 pi over 13. So I'm just going to put 2 pi over 13 because I don't want to simplify that in my calculator. And then how do we get c that goes into
4.417 equals negative c over 2 pi over 13.
the equation would be 4.417 is equal to
Negative c.
negative c over
4.4.
2 pi over 13. And what do you get for c if you do that?
Or you get, well, if you just multiply it out, it's just 0.483. Which, do you do that? You get,
What?
do you normally do that? Just do the 2 pi over 13, which is 0.483.
It would be 2 pi over 13 times 4.417.
Which is 0.483 times. Which is
So what does the answer? What is c? Give me the number.
2.135.
2 point what?
135.
Is that correct?
It's supposed to be minus.
Yeah.
It's negative.
Yeah, sorry. Negative.
So we'll get rid of that plus and make it a negative. So now our equation, the depth at any given time is 7.485 plus 5.46 cosine 2 pi over 13x minus 2.135. It's a crazy equation, isn't it?
Really messing this up a lot.
Now, you are supposed to find the depth of the water at what time?
8:45, no, yeah,
8:45 p.m.
The depth of the water at 8:45 p.m. Okay, so it's 8:45 p.m. What do you put into your calculator for time?
20.75.
20.75, because 8 p.m. is 20 hours after midnight. And if it asks you, what's the depth of the water at noon, 2 days down the road, you'd have to do the same thing. It has to be number of hours after midnight. And what is the depth of the water at 20.75 if you were to plug that in?
We didn't get that.
7.28 feet.
Wait.
And on your quiz on Wednesday, you're probably going to have a problem like this.
Ew.
You're probably going to have a problem like this.